Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. And today we've cooked a fresh set of new revenge stories for you. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story. You fire me for talking about unionizing? I'll spill all your dirty secrets. I used to work for a plasma collection center back from 2008 to 2010. Even though I was a certified phlebotomist, I was placed up in reception, and I slowly worked my way up to senior receptionist and trainer. I was also training for quality control and was known for keeping detailed notes of issues that were in need of fixing/training, which I would forward on to management. Some of the things I'd kept track of were violations of FDA and GHA, German Health Authority, since we were run by a German/Swiss company, as well as OSHA issues. Because I wasn't seeing anything being done, I eventually stopped reporting the issues to avoid being labeled a troublemaker and just kept time/date info, and if I could, I got pictures with date stamps just to cover my own butt in case something bad went down. Fast forward to June of 2010, I was talking with one of my coworkers about the proposed cuts to benefits and the high turnover rate at our center. They were complaining to me about being afraid to call in sick because others had been fired for it, and I mentioned that they were putting donors in danger by us being sick since we weren't allowed to wear face masks unless we were in the back of the donor area, and even then it was the clear face shields to prevent getting hit if someone leaked on us. Without thinking about it, I talked about how unions protected against this sort of thing in other medical fields and how that might be something we should consider to help protect us. The coworker got weirdly quiet, but I figured it was because I was talking about a subject most people don't like talking about. Nothing really happened until about August when another coworker grabbed my ponytail while I was working with a donor and yanked down on it, jerking my head back. I'd informed everyone I worked with never to touch my hair because it was a trauma trigger for me from being abused, so this coworker knew I would wind up in panic mode from this. She'd seen it happen before when a donor touched my hair, so it was deliberate. I remember telling her not to do it again or I would make her get away. She, of course, walked up and yanked my hair even harder, and I hit her. The supervisors went into damage control mode as I fled the area, still in a panic response, and one of them cornered me and demanded I write down what had happened because I had assaulted someone on the property. I wrote my side as well and told them to check security footage since the camera was aimed right at the booth I was working at and had a clear view of the events. Turns out everyone else told an entirely different and creepily similar story than what I told. And the footage couldn't be found, even though less than a half an hour had passed. I was fired for assault less than an hour later and escorted off the premises after being given 5 minutes to clear out my locker and get my belongings. So on to the revenge, which was two-pronged. My partner was there on that day and saw what happened and tried to offer to write up what he saw but was denied. So the next time he went in, he wound up being screened by the coworker who yanked my hair, who didn't even get a write-up for assaulting me, and asked her loudly enough that the whole reception area could hear, "So how's those 50 shekels of silver, Judas? Was it worth it?" Which left her in tears, and another person had to finish screening him. He wound up being banned for 6 months for his attitude, but he claims it was more than worth it. While this was going on, I'd been reaching out to various organizations and departments that oversaw plasma donation and collection. The FDA, OSHA, CDC, GHA, and the like. I informed them of the fact that we always cleaned prior to an inspection, but didn't keep things clean day to day, and suggested a surprise inspection should be in order. I also handed over copies of everything I'd collected and tried to report, but always got shut down. I learned a few months later that all of the management and several of the other techs and supervisors were all suddenly reassigned, and the FDA, GHA, and OSHA had all slammed fines on the center for violations dating back almost the whole time I worked there. And our next story. Lie, cheat, lay off, and gamble with our wages? Enjoy no IT department. Years back, I worked as the IT director for a small brokerage firm. These types of places try to run lean, so I was the only IT personnel. I took the job, but was a bit underqualified to be truthful. The reason they gave it to me was because I was young and they thought they could underpay me. They were right. It was $10K more than I'd ever made in my life. I had a crappy job at the time, so I took it for the resume title step. And honestly, it did work out as a good resume builder. I struggled and had to do an endless amount of learning on the job, but made huge improvements. The day-to-day was sketchy there. We had 5 employees supporting the 4 partners and the 70-plus brokers. Brokers didn't really work there. They rented a desk for a percentage, so they didn't care how many brokers there were on staff. There were a couple of gems, but ultimately we were understaffed because they looked at full-time employees like we were stealing from them. They made us work long hours and work weekends with no overtime. Everyone was underpaid or an overpaid buddy of someone. Worse was the crappy partners. The 4 partners were constantly doing shady stuff. One partner would take money from broker commissions and go to Vegas with it. If he lost the money, we're talking $100,000 plus per trip, he would just let the brokers know there's a hold from the bank and their commissions are coming in slow. Another broker asked me straight up how to hide his affair from his wife. Another had me come to his house on company time and install some audio/video equipment after hours without paying me. When I came on board, they were 10 years out of date on technology. I helped them get up to 100% redundant ISP lines, redundant network equipment, off-sided the mail to make it more reliable, dozens of improvements, and everyone was pretty happy. All brokers and employees loved the improvements. Then the partners started doing really sketchy stuff. They had me open employee exchange mailboxes and run mail queries on email addresses. Turns out they were lawyer emails between lawyer and clients, a broker or an employee. They had me do this all the time for anyone. I would have to collect it all, then they would fire them and keep their clients. It's illegal in the brokerage firm to look at them. I didn't know that at the time. They somehow convinced a lending company to merge with them. Totally different crew. They were nice, honest, real customer-focused. I made friends with one of the lending agents, and he helped me search for houses on his MLS account on lunch. Nicest guy. His wife and her dad ran the firm until the merger. I found out that the plan was to fire everyone from the firm and just steal the name and the client list. They'd only been there a few months, long enough to learn the business. I also found out they were going to fire me now that everything was more reliable. Guess how I found out? During an email query, one of the partners had me do on another partner. So the only nice people in this crap hole were getting locked out of their offices over the weekend. I was getting fired now that I had essentially made myself redundant in their mind. Well, let me tell you about the red folder. The red folder was locked in my file cabinet. It contained every password for admin access to every system. It also contained the fire plan or downtime plan of every system in the company. My boss didn't really understand why we needed one, and he never really looked at it. Well, I called my friend who worked for the lending firm. I told him to head to the office and grab all the files and computers. They technically belonged to them anyway. I then told him about the plan for changing the locks over the weekend. I told him I was quitting and not to mention me. He said he understood and thanks. I changed the only other admin password that my boss had access to, and I shredded the red folder. I emailed my resignation. They begged me to come back and even offered me a 30% pay bump. They said they were shocked I was so disloyal. I heard years later from a secretary that worked there at the time it took 4 months to get all the systems under control again. They had to use a contractor they'd relied on before. I heard it cost them a year of my salary. TLDR, a group of sleazy brokers run their firm like a candy store. They eat up anyone nice and good and crap them out while stealing and cheating. They plan to fire me after I made improvements to their infrastructure and IT. Well, good luck getting any work done with no passwords. Crappy server demands a better tip. A couple months back, my boyfriend and I went out for drinks one night at this cool little speakeasy in Montreal. It's actually quite an interesting place. You come through a nondescript entrance, and the place has a really nice vibe going on once you're inside. No, this is one of those bars where the server comes to your table and serves the drinks rather than one where you order at the bar and take the drinks back yourself. We were seated at a table by the server. We ordered a couple of cocktails, then a couple more, then a couple more after that. Each time we had to order, my boyfriend or I would have to go fetch the server so he would take our order or go up to the bar, order, then bring the drinks back ourselves. When the time came to pay the bill, we went up again so he would come to our table. He came and thought we were going to order again, despite me clearly asking for the bill when I went up. So he went back to get the card machine, and it was another 10 minutes before he came back. At this point, I was so ticked off at the not-so-great service and was debating whether or not I should tip him. The screen had an option for 10%, 15%, 20%, or other. I decided to just leave 10% as I wanted to avoid an argument with the server. Montreal service employees are pretty damn notorious when it comes to the expectation of tips. Now, he prints out the receipt and takes a look at it and sees I left 10%. He then asks if we had a nice evening, to which my boyfriend responded that we did. We both thought it was just a standard question servers ask, so we didn't bother telling him about the poor service received, especially since it wouldn't really make a difference at this point. The guy then says, "Oh, well, if you had such a nice time, then you should have left at least a 15% tip, because in Canada, it's customary to leave a minimum 15% when service is good." I'm guessing the reason he felt the need to outline that's how it is in Canada is because I'm a brown guy. Now comes the petty part. I responded, "Oh, I didn't know. Why don't you just cancel the bill and redo it so I can tip you properly?" He said, "Sure thing," and gave me a second because the manager has to approve bill cancellations. Again, we waited a good 10 minutes for him to come back with a new bill. I was happy to wait, though, because once he came back, I put in the PIN and then selected the other option and left him 0%. He printed out the receipt, and the look of disbelief was well worth it. We got up, and my white Canadian boyfriend said, "Our only tip for you is to give better service and not be so much of an a-hole. In Canada, we really don't like a-holes." Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.